Hello and thank you for checking out this video. My name is Arroyo Morgan. I'm a React developer. I've been developing with React for about 4 years now, going on my fifth year, both professionally and for fun. This series of videos is going to go over using React solely based off the React documentation and experience that I've had using React myself. This first video is going to go into installing React and how you create your first component. And then later videos will continue on with this trend and keep adding on to this project and showing you more details and more advanced techniques as we go along with using React. In order to follow along with this video with no problems, you should be familiar with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And if you would like to code along with me, you need to have Node.js installed on your computer. The latest version will be preferable. I'll link all that in the description. All right, so let's get started. React is a library for building UI, user interfaces, and allows you to build the UI in components so you can break down your UI into several parts. Like, for example, you could have a header section, a navigation bar, you could have content, and you could have table of contents and all that type of stuff, all in separate pieces of UI or in script files so that you can use them all over the place. And we'll get into more details with that. UI on the web is usually made up of just markup HTML, JavaScript for interactivity, and CSS for styling. React lets you combine these markup, CSS, and JSS into custom components called reusable UI elements. You can create your own components or you can start off with pre-built ones. We'll be creating our own in this demo. You can get pre-built ones from libraries such as Chakra UI and Material UI, and I'll have those links in the description. All right, so let's get started with installing React. I'm going to use the installation package from Vite, and I have the site in the description so you can also follow along, or you can check out the docs for a later time to do so. When creating a React application with Vite, you'll have to just simply open your terminal, locate it in where you want to install the application. In my case, I'm in my home root, go into a folder called repos, and then into a folder called mentoring. I will start out by writing npm create it at latest, calling the name of my application. In this case, we're just going to say demo app for right now because I'm not very creative. And then you need to do double dash if you're doing npm version 7 or higher. If you're on npm 6 or lower, you don't have to do this double dashing. And then you have to do another double dash template. Now the reason for that double dash is something more specific towards Vite and how they do their tooling or have their commands set up. For template, we have to give it a name. In the case we're doing React, but here you could do Vue and a couple other templates that they have available within their package. We'll go ahead and we'll hit that. And we'll wait for it to process through. Once it's done, it'll scaffold the program, the app, and it'll tell you what to do next. It says done. Now run cd demo app. So we do cd demo app to get into our go into our demo app directory, and we do npm install. Or you can do npm I like to show. Once that is done, you go ahead and run npm run dev, and it'll launch your app. Tell you that your app is live and give you a link which you can check it out. Once you start the application, it's going to spin up. Once you run npm run dev, it's going to go ahead and show you your local host and the port number that it gave to you, usually 5173. The basic React component is going to be displayed in the app component, and it's going to allow you to increase the count of the count button. Over on the left side of the screen, you'll see my Visual Studio Code open. I'll create a video, or there's plenty of videos out there about Visual Studio Code, using it and installing it. A simple Google search for Visual Studio Code will hit the -- hit of where to download it and get that application installed on your computer. This is the IDE I use for developing most of the time. So basically, this application that you see right now is running. Here's your files along the side here. We have a public folder that is showing us a SVG file that we can use. And an interesting thing about that, I'll show you in a minute. And then we have our source file. This is where you're going to be doing most, if not all, of your developing in. Outside of the source folder, you have an ESLint RC.cgs file, which makes it a JavaScript file, but it's really just a ESLint RC file, which basically tells you your rules for ESLint. And this is a whole different beast in itself outside of the scope of this video, but later on down the road, I'll probably get into making a video about that. There's some key things to know. This is going to tell you your React and your version, and it also tells you a list of different patterns and things to search for while linting your program. A get ignore file will be presented, which allows you to ignore files when you push it up to your Git. That's also another subject to go into, but basically Git is how you store your code and share it, and also be able to collaborate with other developers and keep the source of truth in a remote repository that you can have access to from any computer. You have an index.html file. This is the living HTML file of your React application. The keynote about this is that this div ID root right here is where the application that you see on this side is living at, and that's where the application runs. And I'll show you how that happens here. And this is where you can put all your script tags. As you can see here, our script tag is the main.jsx file, and we'll show you that in a minute. The other files here is your package.json and your package.lock.json. The differences between these two is this is what you do when you install any dependencies into your application. They'll be listed here. Dev dependencies, regular dependencies like React and React DOM that you need. This means that everybody needs this to run this application, and this means that this is probably something that you use while developing an application that not necessarily needed in the production version. The scripts right here are what you run, like npm run dev, npm run build, npm run lint, and npm run preview, and things like that. You get a README file that comes with the template, provides a minimal setup to get React working in Vite with HMR and some ESLint rules. Some being the key word. You can add more as you need it. Currently, 2 official plugins are available here. And this is talking about Vite plugins for the plugin React and the plugin React with SWC, which is a basic state tracking and caching library used within React, and that's another beast in itself. So going back into the source file here, and we'll go down the list of each file here. Here's your assets. Now, this is not something that necessarily has to be in the application. The source, yes, but the asset folder, you can name it whatever you want. I've seen people use asset, images, whichever, but in this case, they use assets, and it's just showing the React SVG you see right here. Whereas the public has the Vite SVG that you see right here. Going back down, we have the CSS file, app CSS. This is where the app file down here, app.jsx, has access to its styling. There's different class names like logo when you hover over the logo and whatnot. And you bring it in through import statement like app root folder that is in app CSS. Now this is our first and main component. Ignore the squiggly lines here. This is just something that my editor does, telling me that there is an issue with how I'm using the target blank without a relationship of no refer. And that's just, it's not going to stop my app from running. It's just so we have our function app, and this is what's being called when the application starts. It's the root component. Moving along, we're going to go into the main.jsx file. The main.jsx file is the main entry point for your application. And here you'll see an import statement for index.css. This is another styling sheet that you can use. You can use multiple styling sheets within your applications, each being pulled in by an import statement, or you can use one if you really wanted to and have them import the same one. If you notice here's our app component. This is where we are pulling in the app.jsx file, which is being exported with export default app down here, and imported via import app from app.jsx right here. Now this is a React DOM function come from the React DOM library, React DOM/client. and it's calling the create root function, which it needs to take in a document.getElement by ID as the parameter. Basically, it needs a element to place the rendered application. Once it gets that application, and this is the root application that we saw in our index.html right here. That render call is going to take in what you want to have it render. In this case, we have our app being rendered. Now, this React.strict mode is a development tool used to keep you honest with your development in React. It will scream at you about any violations or warnings that you're doing with React that are not preferred or not the best developing experience that you should use while developing these applications. I'm going to wrap it up on this video. The next video I'll come out with, we'll go in more details on what a component is. I'll work on creating our own components and adding more to our app as we go along. Please like and subscribe to the channel so you can be alerted the moment a new video is out. And if you have any questions or comments, please drop them below. Thank you for your time, and I hope that this video helps you begin your React development journey. Thank you.